Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 301. I'm delighted to welcome on a guest today that comes highly recommended from a number of different people. And Jordan, we've just had a brief chat with him as well. I think this is going to be a good one. I just mentioned Jordan's here as well, but we are joined by Jeroen Peters. Jeroen, how are we doing?
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Took a while to get a date sorted, but we're here. I'm very happy to be in the podcast, so thanks for that.
We might get onto that in a little bit on why we're recording now and why you're able to record now. I'm sure that will come up a little bit in the podcast as a bit of a theme. Jeroen, you've had some incredible roles and positions at some amazing clubs, but just give us a little bit of a breakdown on your career so far and then a little update as well on your position right now.
In short,
as long as you want. As long as you want.
I started studying physiotherapy in 2000. Started working in sports in 2005 for a professional team in 2007. And have been in and out of football since 2007, basically. I did 1 year of masters in Australia in 2013, where I did sports and musculoskeletal physiotherapy master, which was fantastic because I got to learn about Australian rules football, which was unknown to me by that time. But I was fully immersed in the sport by my uni mates, went to games, got a season ticket, and have been a fan ever since. And that sport also taught me a lot about how to look at the game, but also the athlete, and especially the person before the athlete. So many of those hidden gems I still use today. And then started to work for Ajax in Amsterdam, then went over to England to work for Watford, then went over to Utrecht, which is my hometown, where I worked already from 2007 till 2011. And I was their head of performance for 5 years, and then moved to Club Brugge, a very exciting project where I was also their head of performance. And at the end of the season, decided to take a break and take a step back, detach from everything, and look at the bigger picture. To take a year to become a better professional and a better person. So that's where we are now.
Amazing. We're going to dive into your current responsibilities in a little bit, because I'm sure that's going to come up. But I just wanted to start on the progress of sports science, physical prep that we've made across that time. So you just spoke before we started recording about your first experiences around GPS and how it was exciting, and it gave you loads of data that you could take to players. But then taking that into now, or most recently with your most recent role at Bruges, talk to us about some of the biggest impacts that sports science physical prep has made on performance, you feel, over the years.
Huge, that's for sure. In the beginning, they were a bit the odd one out because they came with iPads to the pitch and were pressing buttons in the back of players, and huge reports rolled out and was telling us a lot, but we had no clue what to do with that amount of information. That was my first experience with sports science. You had the physical coach, who was the traditional, let's run him around, and they had to merge a bit. So the sports scientist was telling him, you're running way more than you did the last 2 weeks, so take care, protect the players a bit. And he was like, we're playing one game this week, we should work them harder. So I was able to sit in many meetings, which was super helpful to gain an understanding of what sports science really meant to the business, or could mean to the business in the near and distant future. And slowly it evolved to physical coaches being a sports scientist by uni degree, and they would blend in the traditional approach to the and science-backed approach, and they become a bit more gray. And what I see now, especially in the last couple of years, what you just mentioned was me being super stoked about having a sports scientist in the building, having the ability to put a vest on a player and to let them do their training and then get reports out of the devices. And I would have 20 pages per player, and I would be super excited and just trying to get it all in and make sense of it, and also help the player and the staff with all the information available. But what I now see is a more less is more approach. You really pick out the stuff that matters most for that individual in that specific time where we're working him, and then bring that back to the coach and the rest of the staff. Where back in the days, you had 20 pages per player, you fill the desk of the coach and just, what do you want to know? And he was like, none of this. How is the training session? And who do we have to work hard, and who do we have to protect? And then that was a bit of a mismatch in the beginning, but I slowly saw just behind the team. I realized that you have to make it a zip file, and just if he wants to see it, he can open it, but just bring him the stuff that matters to him the most, where you can help the players the most. So less is more, where it was as much as possible in the beginning. And I'm talking 2010, 2011, where it all started. You had the polar heart rate monitors in the beginning, and then the GPS devices came. And now we wear Whoops, Aura rings. There's a lot of information. You just have to make it as concrete as possible. The loads that come into you every day onto your screen, you just have to make it understandable to every single stakeholder. So some coaches want it in full detail, and they want an hour discussion on what's going on with every player. And some just want the bigger picture. Okay, coach, we did too many drills today. We can manage it for now, but we have 3 players who are under adjusted load. There's 3 days coming up towards the game. You want to play them. We know that. So we manage them by doing this and that, such and such, and that will keep them available for the game. 90, no worries. Physio team is on to them. Good to go. And that's more the approach that I like nowadays, rather than just print out many pages and just, here you go, good luck.
No, it's brilliant. It is something we've spoke about, and I've asked this question to a lot of people before, and I think it'd be great to get your perspective. So anyone, because coaches now, they're going to have so many opportunities to utilize data and technology. And like you mentioned, there's a lot available now. It wasn't like when it was first coming through that you just had a few bits of data. There's a lot available. If coaches are in a position where they're like, right, we've got all of this, I don't feel like it's all being massively productive and informing our practice that much. What would your advice be for them to sort of take the sniper approach and bring it down and say, right, we're going to taper it down to this because this can actually make a bigger impact on performance? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I like to tell people to this business, I would always like them to understand the picture that I have in my mind when I tell them, okay, we do the last 10 to 15% add-ons to a training. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you have a coach, he has a whistle, he has cones, 24 players, and a pitch, and a timer. He will do 80 to 85%, what you would suggest as well. So don't interfere. Just let him do his business. Those last 10 to 15%, any given day in the week, he will ask, what do you think? And that's where you can add your wisdom. So that's also the wisdom that you have to give him back. Because if you start to educate him on the 80, he already knows. He's been doing this for years. He's a super specialist by himself. He's a subject matter expert. Just that's noise. That's rubbish. It's worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of value in it. But your real value is in the last 10 to 15%. So if you go sick, I do not have to replace you for the week you're off. In my example that I give him, because you've given him every time the 10 to 15% that you can add, so he knows, and you start to make the percentage that you can add smaller and smaller and smaller, and that's where your business is, to find the real and fine detail, because he's asking you questions, so you understand his thinking, and then you can jump in and say, all right, coach, you're doing great, but it's one thing that I'm pinpointing right now, and that's the decelerations in these two drills, and the one that can predict the drills that the coach wants to do in a week leading up to a match, and already analyze them beforehand, what will happen with what player in the training session. That's the guy that I want to work with, because they are so ahead of their game. Read the coach, they read the session, they read his vibe, and they can just pull a little bit and don't bring too much noise.
I think what you're talking about there is humility, isn't it? As a coach, it's being able to say, I think we could have all these impacts, but knowing the right time, as and when, to speak to the coach and say, actually, let's just tweak this, tweak that.
Yeah.
Actually, I completely love what you're saying, but can you just look at this, rather than you say, like, going in and going, oh, no, change that, change this, change that.
Yeah.
You've broken that relationship. So
yeah.
But my question is going to be, did you always, have that approach? Did you have to find out the hard way when you were starting out earlier in your career? Was it like, like every young practitioner, all these great ideas and jumping the gun, and then it was like you got shot down a bit and you learned, or was it like, stand back and watch? How did you find that approach for yourself?
Super curious. One, I just like to know. Second is invite people to give feedback. And not do not be afraid to make many mistakes, not the same ones, because they will kill your fight, but also the other party's fight. But do not be afraid to make them. For that, you need a safe environment. For that, you need a good working relationship with the coach. So what I learned is that coaches are very willing to work with you, but they don't like to work for you, as I understand, because in the end, it's his head on the line, and he is the one who has to make the decisions. And I've seen in the past, and also did it myself, that we would write the whole training session, and then if the coach is like, no, 6v6, I don't want to do 6v6, because in my planning it's a 2v2 and a 1v1 and whatever other version of small-sided games. And we were like, but the load says we should do 6v, we should go bigger, we should do 6v6, and it just came down to poor communication. We just didn't do that beforehand. So what I'd like to do now is get a good understanding of his philosophy, of his preferred style throughout the week. One game a week, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Thursday night, Sunday night, 2 games a week, whatever. And then you just get a sense of what he enjoys the most, because one thing that you have to protect is that everyone enjoys what they're doing. Because if it becomes a burden, it will affect everyone. And that goes for players, but it also goes for staff, because they put a lot of time and effort in. They have little to no social life. We are each other's social life, basically. So fun is one thing that you have to also bring, and that's also to respect each other's input, and also value each other's input. and not say the minute someone brings something to the table, be open ears, be curious, be questioning respectfully. Why do you think that's a good idea now to do 1v1, 2v2, whatever example you have? So it's curiosity, asking questions, learn from mistakes, but do make them, please, because they help. And then, in the military, they say after action review. I quite like that. That's my fourth. If stuff happens, whether it be right or wrong, discuss, because you can learn from the good times and you can learn from the bad times. And I like to go hard when it's the good times, and then I'm way, way, way more critical on the person, but on the content. This was shit, guys. How can we fix this for next time? And I want to be part of the problem as well. But if we lose or we are in bad times, I like to close the ranks and be positive, and because people know, and I also know that we've done things in the wrong way and they turned out bad for us. We lost the game, and in the end, that's what it comes down to. We want to win games. So that's probably my four as an answer to your question.
That approach, Jeroen, as well, has that made it easier to work across? Because obviously you mentioned about working in Netherlands, in Belgium, and in England as well. Has that been easier in a way to adapt to those different cultures, different countries, different coaches that you've worked under as well?
Yeah, for sure. Because opinions, but I also like in the end that one makes the decision and is like, okay, guys, we've put everything on the table. Now we go in this direction, and then we can agree to disagree, but we open this door and go out as one, and we have one language and one voice. And if you go to another country, say, well, this is it, in Dutch, my way or the highway. But in the end, you have to work with their culture. And especially, I did not work in Australia, but I did internships in Aussie Rules. And mixed culture for sure. And I really learned a lot from their approach. You go all in. Sometimes you disagree, which is good, but the moment, or you walk out that door and turn right, but there's the exit, or we walk out of this door and we turn left, and then we're all in together. And they bring a lot of things with humor, and that helps to lighten the load sometimes, because you can really disagree, but in the end, a decision has to be made and a direction must be chosen. And then if that's the direction, and if it goes wrong, do not have the balls to say, I told you so. Everyone knows that you said differently, but you have to be flexible if you move abroad. You have to be adaptable. You have to be curious. You have to have energy, because they will look at you and like, why are you here? What can you bring to this team and to this club? And to get energy, you need to spend energy. So you always have to do 110% instead of the 100 that got you there because you were comfortable in your position. But you have to do extras, and you have to be willing to put in the extra miles and to do stuff that normally you wouldn't do per se, because you had a team that was one team and they knew each other and they knew the strengths and weaknesses. You have to find it out again, and make yourself part of the team, which is super difficult, but also the biggest reward when you feel that it's working, and that you're making progress and able to make a change, which is a lot of fun because it's change for the better.
Was that
in my opinion, not in everyone's opinion per se, but in my opinion,
Was that always a ambition of yours in terms of developing yourself as a practitioner to step outside Netherlands? So when you've come over to England, you've gone to Belgium, was that always a an ambition to look what it was like in different leagues and under different coaches?
Not per se, but I started off as a physiotherapist. You tend to meet a lot of people, thousands per year. Not that many, but let's say a couple of hundred per year, and then over a couple of years, you've met thousands from all walks of life. And I'm always interested. Where do you come from? What's your family like? What did your parents do? Or what do they still do? You have brothers, siblings. And I really enjoyed asking those questions because it gave me a good understanding of the person behind the client. So I was drawn to different cultures, yes, unconsciously, I think. But the biggest moment that made me decide to go overseas was the first one was Australia, and it gave me energy that I've never felt before because I stepped into the unknown and different language, different culture, far away from home, and if you fly out, it looks big because you're leaving, no clue what's in front of you, but just take that first step, and then another one, and then you meet inspiring people. You're like, geez, this is a nice country. Hey, they look at sports. It's a different sport, but they look at it exactly the same as I would look at it back in the Netherlands. And then you tend to have a mindset, that I would like to explore and learn from other people, other cultures. Because if you stay in your country, it's fantastic. Because the Netherlands is a top country. But England is also fantastic. Belgium, top. Scandinavia, southern part of Europe, America, everywhere you can find excites you. So yeah, I'm usually quite open and adventurous in that sense, but I've never known that I was. But I just, yeah, sounded great. Let's go. The approach. So a bit impulsive in that sense.
I think there's loads of lessons in that, though, isn't there? Because, like you say, there's lots of things which on paper look really scary. Like if you said to me now, go to Australia and move to Australia, I'd be like, nah, I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. But I think what you talked about in terms of the skills, working with players, practitioners, other members of staff, managing up, managing down, they're your tools, aren't they? And yeah. What you're saying, just by having the skills to find out about a person and asking them about the background, where they're from, you know, where they come from, what their parents did, and all that sort of stuff. No matter where you are in the world, regardless of what sport, as long as you can, you know, have a good conversation with somebody and be, you know, likable, if you like, you can be a success, if you like, and you can crack on and just make things work in your favor. So I think there's a lot of lessons there, because we've had a lot of practitioners on these podcasts. Some who've been abroad, some who've just stayed in one country, and we always seem to try and ask the ones who've been abroad, you know, what was the big step like? You know, was it hard? Was it this? And it comes back to exactly like you say there. You settle in and you just ask questions and you become a sponge and things like that. And sounds like, you know, that's exactly what you did. And I think that's a lesson to anyone. I'm going to get to a question, but my interest is, you know, I've only worked in this country. You've worked in this country at Watford. Do you find, you spoke about it earlier, going a little bit back in terms of the humour that the Aussies bring? We all know a few Aussies. I used to work with one at Bournemouth. With Aaron, he's got plenty of humour, and it's definitely an Aussie thing. Do you think there's a real element of seriousness to English football that could sometimes do with a bit of cheering up?
Yes. Yeah. You know, I adore the English, the accent, the culture, the Sunday roast, the joy for football. It's the best thing in life. I absolutely loved it. but I also see a lot of, because I explained this earlier to a few other people. It's good to be serious about your job, and I'm that serious when it comes to helping players develop and supporting the coaching staff, and I go through walls to make it happen. But there's a time to dial up and there's a time to dial down, and I've learned that over the years. And one thing that I found, Netherlands, we take ourselves too seriously sometimes, and we're loud-mouthed, and we speak beautiful words. But when it's time for action, it doesn't always happen. And with the English, it does happen. I really enjoyed my time, and I still speak to many people from that time, actually, and I have a lot of respect for them, and I think they are super specialists. But winding down is difficult, because it's their job. Whereas in what I found in Australia, it's their job, but it's also their life. It's mixing and matching. You sometimes you can't see, is this guy now talking private life or professional life? Because I got invited to barbecues in my first week, which is very uncommon in the Netherlands or in England or in Belgium. You do not invite people over into your private life because that's private. And there it was just, this guy invited me over. It was, I think, his mom's 56th birthday. And he didn't tell me. And I was just walking into a backyard barbecue, 50 family members. And he's like, no, mate, you're welcome. And it just blew me away, the hospitality. And but if you look with the English, they're not used to it, but they really liked it. If you invited people over for coffee outside of work, and let's go for a walk in town, and just like to go for Sunday roast on the day off. And then it became, hey, this guy is also here, just he's here for work and to be that serious about his job and to make things happen, but also to enjoy his time, because I find it usually that we focus so much on the game, it sometimes takes away your joy, because if you lose, your week is shit, and then 2 weeks before the next game you start to get your adrenaline up again. That's also why I did it for a couple of years, which was a blessing at Utrecht. I was allowed to not go to games because I was the only one on Monday who was energized and neutral and objective, and because I was not on the bench, I was in the stands, and I also got emotional with a shitty loss or a bad win, or a good win. All of a sudden, I did this, and that fit with me. I like to stick to the long-term planning and try to make it game independent. So I said, I'm not doing games anymore. I'm not coming. That's my day off, and I'll be in the rest of the 6 days. But that day is my family day. And in the beginning, I looked at the games at home, and then I turned off the TV, and then I looked at live score from at home, and then I turned off live score, and then they called me after the match to tell me and give me a summary of what happened, which was top, because that gave me time to prepare. And I would ask the question Monday morning to the captain, how was the game? Oh, wow, what a game. Unbelievably good. And and then I would ask the sports scientist, and he would give me the numbers. And usually what I did Monday afternoon, Monday evening, I would watch the game back in detail, 90 minutes, and just bring all the stories together and try to see through my own eyes what they were saying and telling me. And then that Monday I had energy to, hey boys, done, dusted, rebounds, and let's go again. And I would be trying to give more energy than to take up a little bit of what my peers didn't have because they were tired, away games, whatever. So fun, yeah, and joy, yeah, for sure. The Aussies are extremely good at that. But if you do your best, can the English can, the Dutch can. They all have, but you just sometimes need to open up a door in their brain that says, hey, it's safe to go and have a coffee with this colleague outside of work to discuss life and children and the stuff that also comes as a professional. There's a private life as well, and you can help with that and ask for advice, but also give advice.
It's a great point on. I love that on the start of the week, because you removing the emotion from that first interaction with players on that Monday morning or whenever it is really important, isn't it? Because if players are going in off the back of a loss, and you're in that mindset of oh, we just suffered a loss, like we're going into the first training session, that's going to be very different to them coming in, seeing you, and you being more neutral, I suppose, like and more objective in terms of what you're actually trying to do. And we've talked about that in terms of like session to session as well, that a lot of the time, majority of the time, the first interaction that players are having are with the performance staff, aren't they? So it's, in a sense, they're setting the tone of the session. So whether that is based on results or whether that is based on the practitioner's mood that day, it's so important, isn't it, to set the right tone? And that's the start of the week or the start of the session.
Yeah. And it's crazy that if you listen to players and staff carefully, how much of how much they safety in other people just lost a game that they should have won. Even the bus driver, if he's grumpy because he's a fan and we lost, it affects them. And I would hear that on a Monday morning. He was just he wouldn't open the fridge, and the food was cold, and he's not aware of the fact that his energy, what he brings after a game, an element of long-term success building. It is a building block, but it can also break down what you're trying to build up. He's on away games, and they don't speak to him much, but his energy, his presence affects the group, and it's everyone, the kitchen. And I like to also involve everyone because they all have an important part to play in the puzzle, high performance. And if they have won a game, and then they think, all right, the kitchen will do this, and I'll just bring whatever I like to my plate and just shove it down my mouth, and out I am. Not that they have to snitch, but they can also educate the player, but also tell us, hey, keep an eye out on that one. He needs help. And then I would, without telling that I heard from the kitchen, informally over coffee, talk at the coffee machine, talk to a player, how's food this week? I didn't do well on Monday. Why not? Yeah, just we won the game, and I was just happy, and I wanted to enjoy my food for one day. Okay, that's no problem. Just getting conversations going. And I heard this yesterday, and I did not hear the word before, but it resonated quite well. I think I'm a knowledge broker. I'm just receiving information and handing out information, and I try that as I can without, if it's bad information, I also have to transfer that to a stakeholder, and if it's good information, also have to bring that neutrally and objectively to the other one. And I think that's what I've been doing for many years now without realizing it. Being the central hub and being the knowledge broker, just bring the puzzle, try to solve it, and bring it to another stakeholder. And they can speak to themselves as well, amongst themselves. But because I'm here, there, and everywhere, and I'm a generalist, and I'm in the gym, on the pitch, in the kitchen, and I try to manage a few departments, that helps to get a lot of information in that would have been lost otherwise. And it helps when you have open ears and you're curious. So if the chef comes in grumpy, buddy, what's up? and be that first person back to, hey, we have a job to do here, and bring your A game today because we depend on you as well for success. You're right. Thanks, JP. Let's go. And then give him a high five when he leaves the building again. And the next time when he comes in grumpy, he's like, he opens the door, he's like, not helping. And he will do it himself. And then he will do it to another one. So it's just a cascading effect that you're trying to bring into a building. And it doesn't always work like I'm telling now. And it's sometimes many discussions and there's no magic to it. It's just doing the same shit over and over again that you're again, because that's the only way to really change culture or a process or a system is by constantly pushing the limit to the next limit, and then small steps every day. And then if you do achieve it, celebrate it big, like you won a massive trophy. That's usually what I tell myself when I get frustrated about something not going in the direction I wanted to. There's a big trophy waiting for you, buddy. Go for it. And for me, that's not winning championships. It is in the end, but it's bringing the necessary positive change.
I think again, everything you said there is what I always call it like the dark arts of coaching, isn't it? Where you've got to try and figure out almost the energy of the room or what an individual needs or what a squad of athletes need, and you've got to be a certain person for those, a different person for those. So, like you were saying now with the chefs, you know, you've got to try and be a lifter and try and support them and get them going, but there might be, you know, like you said, an athlete whose food's not been great this week and they've just been snacking and binge eating or whatever it might be. And then you've got to kind of the big brother and the arm round. And I think for young practitioners listening, you know, we had a podcast a couple of weeks ago called Knowing Your Onions and Knowing Your Physiology, knowing your anatomy and knowing all the important things in sports science and physiotherapy, etc. But these are the skills, aren't they, which help arguably more and have monumental impacts in team environments day in, day out. Yeah. Especially in a role like yours, when it's a head of certain departments or multiple departments. I love what you said about objectivity and not being involved emotionally with the game, and that must really help with that, I'm sure, because football is emotional. We're human beings. We all get emotional. If your captain got sent off for a dodgy red card, you weren't quite sure, and then everyone's there and up in arms and having to go to the ref, and then you come in Monday morning and that continues and continues and continues, like you say. Being yourself, who wasn't actually there, only kind of caught up with it, got it from them. You can be that person, kind of just almost deflate the room and reset again. So I think that's really important, and we haven't had many people recently talking about that, actually just being super level, because sport is so emotional, like you say. Celebrate the highs, pick everyone up when they're low, but you've got to try and somehow stay in the middle. So I think people listening, that was a brilliant summary of how to try and run departments and just manage people, for sure. And if I can give one tip to people coming into the business, what I drive myself is to not be around to be around, but be around. You know what I mean? Yeah. You just, that badge on your shirt is fantastic. I get it, but it helps you to be in a room that not a lot of people get access to. But be around to be around. Let's say we have a sports scientist who's working upstairs on data. They sometimes never see him in the physio room. And that surprises me. Grab a cup of coffee, walk down and ask questions. Sit in and just mix and match. Make yourself part of the team. And I know it's a big step. And I know it only comes when you feel safe enough to do so. And to build safety, you need to create a safe gut feel for people, that you are, for them, not telling secrets that
are told within the physio department, because players open up. Just listen in and ask a question, and just be present, be around and be present. Not be around because you can be in a room, then want to be in this room. No. Be active and engaging, and you can be active and engaging without telling a story. You can be that with your energy and have a laugh with your colleagues and have a laugh with the players. That's okay. And then also know when you have to leave the room or are not welcome. And that comes with experience, and that also comes with making mistakes. I've knocked at first team doors when I was a U23 employee. And I knocked through that door, on that door, for way too long. Because I've knocked, I think, for a full season. And they said, geez, GP, come in, mate. You're one of our team now. And it's part of the respect that I have for the first team environment. I don't want to be there just to be there. I have a question. I want to grab whatever from the medical room, or I would like to go to the gym to work with a player. But I would always knock, and that it's just a respect that I have for that environment. But if you're invited in, you can also make yourself inviting, being open, have a good energy, and just be around and be present, and don't be afraid to do so, because it really helps. Let's say the gym needs a cleanup, and you're not part of the gym team. Go and help your teammates. Just why not? We're all in the same business. We're all in the same team. Yes, we are named differently. One says physical trainer, the other one says physiotherapist. But just help each other, and that if you do that from the start, massively help your development, because then they start to tell you things, and they start to help you to become a better professional or a better person.
Brilliant. I want to move on to your current status, role, position that you're in now, Jeroen, as well.
Yeah.
Just one thing before we dive into that. Can you touch on some of the realities of the demands on practitioners within the top level of football, like you've experienced? Because we've spoke about making an impact and how we can really build relationships with players and coaches and make impacts with those players. At the same time, you've done that over a number of different seasons, number of different squads, number of different coaches, managers. There's been a lot of interactions and seasons and ups and downs that happened in that time. So can you touch on some of the realities of that, and then also take us into what you're currently doing?
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm top level at all. I'm just a kid from the Netherlands that enjoys what he's doing and likes to work with people that are specialists in their trade and are super proud of what they do. And I think you can be top at a club in the second division. You can be top at a top level team. I was fortunate enough to work at different clubs at the highest level. But the demands, for the demands, I'd say they are what you make of them. As in, yes, the demands are super high. Sometimes it becomes personal. You are shit. You did this wrong. Why is there such an injury burden on the team right now? We are not fit. I can see it with my own eyes, and you with your numbers. And it's sometimes stressful for sure. But I'd always say to myself, if this would be me in his position or her position, what would I do? And I'd probably react the same every now and then, because we all have the best intention for the team we're working for, and that's to win games, to develop players, and to create transfer possibilities for that player. and for the club to increase revenue and move up the ladder. So I always try to look at it from that perspective. What would I do if I would be in their position? I would also sometimes shoot from the hip, probably. Make it personal, whatever, because the demands are super high. That's for sure. And sometimes you ask yourself why, because we're with 25 staff, we share the load, but I just can't put myself in the shoes of a head coach because I've never been in that position. And we are very fortunate to not be in that position sometimes, because media can be killer. The crowd can be a very negative impact on your private life. So the pressure is humongous, I would say. And the best ones are the ones that can cancel the noise and focus on what they like, what they get fun out of, and enjoy the most. And that's usually for coaches being on the pitch, training players. And for me, that's being in the gym, in the kitchen, in the physio room, on the pitch, working with players behind the scenes. And to have those little interactions with players, seeing them improve, seeing them become a magnificent human being, becoming a dad. That's the side bonus that I have next to winning games with the players that no one thought they would be able to do so. Like last year, we had a cracking finisher to the season, and we didn't have the best start. But we religiously believed in our potential, and we also religiously stick to what we believed in, that we agreed in the beginning, and we went through quite a lot of rough times, but in the end we succeeded, and there you go. You just don't know, so just hold on, and enjoy the ride a bit, and have fun with each other. That would be my advice. But the demands, what I usually see, the moment kids come, people take a step back or become and get out of football, or they become distant from their family a bit. So what I tried to tell myself, which was very good advice from a mentor, make it and build your dream now and put all your time in, but also create some sort of way of work where a wife can fit in or kids can fit in. So even though you're single now, you can say yes to everything, which was also a tip someone gave me when I was 22. Before you're 30, say yes to every chance you get. Yes, yes, yes. So you want to work on this team? Yes. Just try as much as you can. Try on error. That's the best. That got me far, I must say. But the next one was, I was about 26, 27, and I was at a turning point in my career. Do I go for professional and just go full in, or do I also the consultancy on the side with individual athletes? So I was just working 80 hours a week. And he was like, okay, what if a girlfriend comes in and she's like, I would like that Saturday, and I want to go away for the weekend. What about it? Oh, that's a good life question. So I already started to plan how I would like to set up my work and the pressure, and just not being present at home a lot when a girlfriend comes in, when she becomes my wife, when kids arrive. And I like to give that advice to new people as well. Just picture yourself in that situation. What would you do? Would you work tomorrow or take the day off? Would you open your laptop when it's a mandatory day off and work, or would you just enjoy your time off? That work will not in 2 days time. If you finish it tomorrow, it will help you in 2 weeks time. So take the day off, enjoy it, spend time with friends and family, and then in 2 days time, start cracking on that project again. And I was not like that in the beginning. I was just working 7 days a week, 24/7. But now when I do get 2 hours off, I enjoy it to the fullest. When I get a day off, I try to enjoy it to the fullest, and not pack it with activities, but just being present. And for friends, for family, and that helped me a lot. A day off was a real day off, and then where am I now? Well, at home in the Netherlands, close to the Hague, next to the beach, which is a blessing at the moment with weather like this. Wearing shorts, flip flops every single day for the last 4 or 5 weeks.
No logo. No logo.
No logo. I'm wearing logoless shirts. They're somewhere in the back there, so I can wear them if I feel nostalgic. But no, I decided to a year of development, a deep dive into myself, my strengths, my weaknesses, to try and find. I would see myself for the next 20 years, because as I explained in the beginning when we weren't recording yet, I started very operational as a physio, as a strength coach, and then in the same club they promote you to the next role, and then in the end you become a head of the physiotherapy department, and sometimes you think, what does it mean? Because it's the two of us, but it still comes with a title and with expectations from the other one. So you have to manage expectations all of a sudden. So you're managing another person, and you naturally evolve to a position where you at a turning point. Okay, do I still do a lot of operational stuff or more the strategic managerial stuff? And you try to do it both to the best of your abilities, but that's two times 40 hours a week, which is too much because you can't think clear. So what I found is that I was in search of time in professional sports, and if there is a good time to do it, to find the time that I need to energize through other sports, be inspired by people, talk to people, have the time to talk to people, think about what they told me, read all the notes book that I've written over the years, done before. Now I'm slowly starting doing that. Now's the time to do it. I'm 41. I'm young. My family's healthy. I'm healthy. My wife is happy. I can do a few projects that will pay the bills, but also give me time and resources to travel, to visit teams, to visit other sports, to visit people, to talk to them, spend the day with them, just ask them loads of questions. And also being coached by 2 people that will help me peel the onion and get to the core and find things that I didn't know before that might be useful when you want to move more into a managerial role within the world of high performance sport. And I've talked to many people. Usually they go to a club and they evolve into a high head of performance or a director of performance. And then when they move to another club in the same country, it's okay-ish. They struggle, but they do well. But if you do that and you move countries, it's a different ballgame. And I found many learnings for myself that I want to dive into that I do not have the time for when I am in a team environment. So I wanted to take a year out of football, stay in the football with a few projects, but also have time to have a day of thinking and walking around on the beach and read a notebook, drink coffee, and then call people and ask them questions again. And that will help me a lot coming years.
How does that feel at the minute, Jeroen? Does it feel very strange that you're not going into you're not in the pre-season period, you're not dealing with friendlies, you're not preparing for a season. How does that feel at the minute?
Very strange in the beginning because I have no clue what's ahead of me, which is also it feels very adventurous, you know.
Yeah.
I never recorded or wrote down the names that I talked to in the past. I just remembered them, and now I started to write down people that I talked to and what we discussed. And I tend to have different conversations with a lot of people. And one thing that I keep repeating, that's been repeated the last 5 weeks, it's a curveball. I keep calling it a curveball because you think you hit in a certain direction when you start your career, and you just go up, 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 and then all of a sudden you pull the plug and right, have a breather, and it's quite relaxing. I do miss little moments. I had one player that I did a high five with, say -1, 64 games last season. And those moments I miss. So I text him now every match day -1, even though I'm not at the club. Just I text him a virtual high five. It's those interactions with staff and players that I miss the most. And that's what a lot of people that I've talked to in the last couple of weeks tell me as well, is that that's probably what they are going to miss most when they do what I now am doing. They go either out of the business or they take a break, or get fired, whatever, and they are at home. They miss the interactions. I do miss it, but I also feel very rejuvenated for I don't know what reason, but I am super excited for all that's to come, and that's something that I've never thought of before, because you have 10 days off, new preseason. Then you have 5 days off over the holidays, Christmas holidays, and then training camp. There you go again. And then May, you have new preseason. You just in that constant sprint. And now I can have a breather and just, all right, what do I enjoy most about football? And what do I not like about football? Many things that I like. There's a few things that I do not like. A few I can't change. And some I can change. And the some that I can change, I'm willing to put time and effort in to make a positive change for myself in order to help the next team club in a more effective and efficient way.
I think it's really refreshing to hear the break has come off your own back and come in a way that you've sort of decided that it's needed to take that side step for you to then progress on further in it. Because the realities of football is that these breaks oftentimes are coming not through our own choice. So I think that's something massively, and I think this will resonate. Those last few minutes that you've spoken there, I think that will resonate really heavily with a lot of coaches, where they're probably stuck in that hamster wheel of thinking that I've been in this similar sort of position, maybe at different clubs for God, I've lost count of how many years and how many seasons, and I've never done that, taken that step away and had that time to reflect. And I hope that's what people do. I'm not saying that they have to do the same as what you've done.
No.
But I think that thinking in that way and the sort of approach that you're going to take to this time as well, there's a lot for people to think about within that as well.
Yeah. And that's one thing that I try to listen to my gut, because I'm usually evidence-based or backed. But now I was just listening to my gut. And the moment I walked away at Bruges, I felt a little bit of pain because I'm going to miss these people. Fantastic club, fantastic people. But I also knew it was important to do so. And then usually when a moment like that happens, you're like, all right, I should let people know that I left, and I didn't. And that was the first sign that I listened to myself. I said, do not reach out and say you're a free agent, because then clubs might call. So I didn't do that for 2 weeks. And then the phone started ringing because people got the news. And then I tried to be super honest with everyone from the first moment. Hey, thanks for the call. I'm very interested, but not right now, not for this season, because I need to do this, because I can step into a new role. I get enthusiastic within the minute. As I said, I'm quite impulsive. Yeah, let's go for it. This sounds great, fantastic, exciting project. Let's go. No need to find energy. It's there. But I also felt now that I had to say to people, thanks for the call. Super appreciate it. But this is what I have to do in order to help myself become a better person and professional. Otherwise, I would be energized and happy. Then by November, I would be like, what if I had done the take a break moment? What if? And I do not want that. What if? I just want to try it and test it and see it for myself.
No, I'm intrigued. We need another catch up, Jeroen. When you've gone through this period, you're in the next position. Yeah. We'll catch up, because I think a lot of people want to hear as well what the sort of approach you took, maybe the benefits of doing it, what's then led into the next position, and your approach, how things changed. I think it's massive. I think it's huge, the way that you spoke about it. So I really appreciate you being so open and honest. When those offers come flooding into us on the podcast of these clubs chasing us, where should we direct them to?
To you, and you can direct them to me. You'll be my agent. No, they can reach out. No problem. My email and my number is on my LinkedIn, so they can send me a text or an email, and I'm happy to have a chat this year, because it can also be very inspiring. As I said, I've talked to a few clubs and to directors and owners that I was like, wow, you guys have a fantastic project going on. Can I be of advice to you guys? I'm not taking up the job, but I would recommend doing X, Y, Z, and I would for sure call this guy. So I would like to propose 3 candidates, and that could fit this role. And I also like to do that. It doesn't have to be about me. It just I can be of help, because I think I have good questions for people in our business that they can answer. But they can also question me, that I have some good answers for them that can help them again.
Definitely. Jordan, any final thoughts?
No, just awesome. And just to echo what Ben said, Jeroen, I think thank you for the openness and honesty. And I definitely agree. I think a lot of us in English football, we do need to liven up a bit and just have a bit of fun. It's a really good job. Let's enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's really serious.
Yeah. And you guys sometimes have no clue how beautiful the game is in England. And it's beautiful all over the world, for sure. But the atmosphere in some stadiums is just beyond imagination. And it's fantastic in a lot of countries. But England has a special place, for sure. So enjoy, because it's special where you are, and trust your gut feel a bit every now and then, and just connect to people, and then the game itself will be, our game behind the game will be way more beautiful and inspiring to many other people, and it will help yourself and people around you a lot.
Top man, Jeroen. I really appreciate you coming on. It's great to finally get this done. So massive thank you for coming on. And
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wish you all the best in this period as well of your career. I think it'll be fascinating to see the next steps for yourself as well, and all the best wherever you end up in the next position as well. It'd be great to stay in touch.
I'll keep you guys posted. And thanks again for the invite. I really enjoyed it, and I hope the listeners will enjoy it as well. And as I said, if they feel safe enough to reach out, I'll be happy to answer back and connect, and that's where the magic happens.
Top man, appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Ciao.
Episode 301 in the bag. Jordan, we just had a very brief chat then. just first of all, if Jeroen was head of department in a department you worked in, how would that make you feel?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think as an episode, I touched on so many points. It's a really, really strong one, and I think there's so much in there. I seem to say every week, but for someone at every stage in their career, but the way he's talking about early stage when you are operational and you are an S&C coach, or a sports scientist, or a physio, but then talking about the skills he has as a director of performance, head of performance, whatever role title you want to give that, and how he was saying about I'll take the noise, of the heat, if you like, from the head coach.
Yeah.
We were saying off there, weren't we? If you have people in your department who love doing their job and doing what they do, if it's a sports scientist, an S&C coach, etc., that the director of performance's role is to allow them to do that. And when he was talking about that objectivity and staying away, removing the emotion and all that sort of stuff, like it was just loads of learning points for me. I think my biggest takeaway, like the summary I would say of that episode and how we spoke, was it's a brilliant overview of a natural evolution of a practitioner. I would say as a performance practitioner, starting from youngster, being a sponge, trying to get as much stuff in your head as possible, saying yes to every opportunity and all that sort of stuff. Then as you kind of go maybe a couple of years into your career, you're looking at, right, what's next, but also what if, and like we spoke about on a few episodes ago, in terms of having a plan B, maybe a plan C if things were to go awry, and if something, like you said, can you add a girlfriend in there? Can you add a family life in there, and all that sort of stuff? And that's kind of the middle stage of your career, and then maybe the 10 years down the line into your career, then it's to kind of take a step back. And when he was talking about, I just trusted my gut, I needed a little break, I had to do it for me. There's so much in there, which I think you could almost section it, couldn't you? You could do chapters on it and basically be like early stage, middle stage, latter stage, and I think it's worthwhile for any listener of any stage of their career, a very, very good practitioner. Very, very good episode.
I think one of the initial things for me was just how personable he was. Like, it's the first conversation we've had with him, and how easy was it to talk to him and get information out of him. And I think, like when I said to you then, how good would it be having someone like Jeroen leading the department? You'd have trust in him. You'd have, like he said, you'd feel like he had your back, and that's the sort of idea that I took from the podcast. Just a few notes that I wrote down was where he spoke about the last 10 to 15% of training. So letting the coach take the sort of majority, you filling in that gap of putting in that right information at the right time, whether that's through presenting data, whether that's through just giving a little bit of information at the right time in the right place. I think that's really important. That's sort of knowing where we fit within the support role to a head coach. I love the question that you said about English coaches, British coaches being too, or just clubs being too serious. Yeah. And I think that sort of tied in a little bit, I thought, with when we spoke about some of the demands, because it is demanding, isn't it? And I think some people sort of get into that trap of head down, got to get results. If we don't get results, my job's at threat. We can't take things. We can't not take things too serious. So we have to really be on it all the time. And I think that was something that I thought Jeroen gave a really good insight into. And that ties in with like staff energy that he spoke about as well. Being away from that game day, and away from the results as well, which I thought was really interesting, up until like, obviously still found it out, but in a slightly different way to watching the game and being at the game. And then being that neutral person, that objective approach of taking it onto a Monday or a Tuesday morning. The knowledge broker that he mentioned as well, having the different knowledge for different people at the right time. I thought that was a really cool insight. And then the other thing he mentioned, which I might put this as the title of the episode, I'll say, don't be around to be around.
Yeah.
And this is just all about, Barry just talked about it, being impactful in your role, not just getting to that point of having the tracksuit and being the sports scientist at the club or whatever, what are you doing to make that impact? And I think they were some of the things. There's loads more as well in this one, and it's something that one and definitely need to listen back to. But they were some of the key things at the time where I was like, that's really beneficial. I think the other side of it, which we mentioned as well, is this reflective piece, and like what you mentioned in terms of trusting his gut and taking this step back. I think that alone for a lot of coaches will start to make people think.
Yeah. So
yeah, I know Jeroen's going to listen back. Jeroen, absolute legend for doing it. And there's loads we've taken away from that. He mentioned, like a lot of other people do, in terms of feedback on the podcast as well. And I always ask for feedback. We ask for shares of the podcast, not just shares, but shares including your takeaways. So I think that's really important. So I really appreciate people sharing it and saying, enjoyed this one. Well, what did you enjoy about it? What were some of the key things you took from it? I think that's really important for people. And I know Jeroen will appreciate that as well. Anything finally from you, Jordan?
No, just another really, really good episode to take us into the next century of episodes. 301 now. So yeah, let's set the start really high and see where the next 99 go, and we'll go from there.
Mate, some big ones coming as well. Hopefully next 2 episodes with 2 returning guests that went down very well the first time. So that'll be interesting. And then, yeah, we've got some really big ones to come. So, no, it's exciting. I'll just wrap things up. Always make sure to go and check out the sponsors. They make this podcast happen now. So I really appreciate their support. Hydro, Rezel, The Good Prep, Magic Mind. Go and give them a follow on socials. See the sort of work that they're doing. They're really helping us out. And Jordan, yeah, thank you for your time again, mate.
Loved it. Always a pleasure.